Don Simon's story begins with a life shaped and controlled from the very start. Born on August 21, 1961, Simon claims his existence was monitored and manipulated, forcing him to live under false pretenses. From childhood, he describes feeling alienated, always on the outside looking in. This sense of captivity in plain sight would set the stage for decades of struggle. As we explore Simon's account, we'll uncover how these early experiences of isolation and control laid the groundwork for a lifetime of persecution and denial of basic rights. Let's delve into the details of his journey. Simon's narrative paints a picture of systematic denial. He describes being refused the freedom to choose his path, to love, to marry, and to raise a family. According to Simon, these rights were withheld due to the influence and control of the Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church, and their political allies. He alleges that his life was shaped by forces driven by lust, greed, and hypocrisy, forcing him into religious and political service without his consent. This ongoing abuse, Simon claims, was not just personal but orchestrated by powerful institutions. Events of 2001 marked a dramatic shift in Simon's life. He connects his personal struggles to the broader context of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, suggesting that what followed was even more harrowing than what came before. Simon describes this period as one of intensified abuse, torment, and isolation. He believes these experiences were orchestrated by the Vatican and its network, with the papacy at the helm. The trauma of these years would further entrench his sense of being controlled and targeted by powerful interests. Simon traces the origins of his persecution to the reign of Pope John XXII, whose papacy began in 1958 and ended in 1963. He claims this period marked the start of a pattern of abuse, symbolized by a double XX carved into the back of his neck. This mark, he says, is documented in Exhibit A. Simon's account suggests that each successive pope played a role in the ongoing conspiracy, with each papacy bringing new forms of control and suffering. Following Pope John XXII, Simon details the succession of popes who, in his view, perpetuated his suffering. Pope Paul VI, Pope John Paul I, and Pope John Paul II each presided over periods marked by continued alienation and abuse. Simon notes the untimely death of Pope John Paul I and the long reign of John Paul II, suggesting that these transitions were not merely religious milestones, but chapters in his ongoing ordeal. Each papacy, Simon claims, contributed to the web of control that defined his life. A crucial piece of Simon's evidence is Exhibit A, which he describes as a double XX carved into the back of his neck. This mark, he claims, is a physical manifestation of the control exerted over him since childhood. The image provided in Exhibit A serves as a stark reminder of the personal cost of his alleged persecution. For Simon, this mark is not just a scar, but a symbol of the Vatican's reach into his life. Simon introduces the concept of the three Johns, or the Devil's Triangle, represented by 3 dots burned into his nose. As shown in Exhibit B, he interprets this as a sign of being used as a flag-bearer for the Church, forced to lead the way into a three-way combination of power. This period is associated with the papacies of John Paul II, Benedict XVI, and the transition to Pope Francis. Simon's narrative suggests that these symbols and events are deeply intertwined with his personal suffering. The papacy of Benedict XVI from 2005 to 2013 marks another chapter in Simon's account. He describes this period as a continuation of the Vatican's conspiracy, with the Church consolidating its influence and control. Simon believes that his role as a symbolic figure was further entrenched during this time, as the Church navigated internal and external challenges. The transition to Benedict XVI, in Simon's view, was not just a religious event, but a calculated move within a broader strategy. Simon claims that the election of Pope Francis in 2013 was the final act in a long-running conspiracy. He suggests that bringing in a South American Latino pope was a strategic move to solidify the Church's influence among Latino populations in California and beyond. According to Simon, this decision was designed to guarantee a Roman Catholic presence for generations, ensuring political and financial benefits for the Church and its allies. Simon introduces the concept of the Hidalgo payment, alleging that U.S. taxpayer money was embezzled to support Latino populations in specific California cities. He claims this scheme was orchestrated by the Vatican and the Democratic Party to ensure loyalty and control. According to Simon, these payments were used to cover high housing costs and maintain the Church's influence in key regions. This alleged financial conspiracy, he argues, is a central part of the broader network of control. Simon's allegations extend to the diversion of funds into Latino-controlled schools, jails, and other institutions. He claims that these payoffs were part of a larger conspiracy to use the criminal justice system as a means of transporting undocumented persons into cities. Simon points to a network that includes the trafficking of illegal immigrants from Arizona to California, facilitated by law enforcement officials. This, he argues, further entrenched the Church's power and reach. Key figure in Simon's narrative is Sheriff Joe Arpaio of Maricopa County, Arizona. Simon alleges that Arpaio played a role in the trafficking network, helping to move undocumented persons into California. This connection, he claims, was part of a broader effort to manipulate demographics and maintain control over key regions. Simon's account suggests that law enforcement was not just complicit, but actively involved in the conspiracy. Simon describes a violent assault on February 13, 2008, which he attributes to the Vatican's ongoing campaign against him. He believes this attack was intended to cripple him, mirroring similar tactics allegedly used against others. Simon claims that the Vatican sought to remove his ability to have sexual intercourse, using him as a surrogate for celibacy. This, he argues, reflects a broader pattern of abuse and manipulation within the Church. Simon's allegations extend to the US military, which he claims was used to enforce the Vatican's will. He suggests that military personnel were involved in similar acts of abuse, targeting individuals for the purpose of maintaining celibacy among priests. Simon's account paints a picture of a vast network of control, with religious, political, and military actors working in concert to suppress dissent and enforce conformity. Throughout his report, Simon maintains that his statements are true and correct to the best of his ability. He frames his narrative as an investigative report, grounded in personal experience and supported by physical evidence. Simon's declaration serves as both a conclusion and a call to recognize the reality of his ordeal. He stands by his account, despite the extraordinary nature of his claims. Exhibit B features a photograph of 3 dots burned into Simon's nose, which he interprets as the Devil's Triangle. This symbol, he claims, represents the Church's use of him as a flag-bearer and a tool in its broader strategy. The image serves as a powerful visual reminder of the physical and psychological scars Simon associates with his ordeal. For Simon, these marks are not just evidence but a testament to the depth of his suffering. Symbols play a central role in Simon's narrative. From the double XX on his neck to the 3 dots on his nose, these marks are imbued with deep personal and symbolic meaning. Simon interprets them as signs of control, manipulation, and suffering. For him, these symbols are not just physical marks, but representations of the broader forces at work in his life. They serve as reminders of the power institutions can wield over individuals. Simon's account highlights the close relationship between religious and political institutions. He alleges that the Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church, and their political allies worked together to shape his life and the lives of others. This alliance, he claims, was driven by a desire for power, control, and financial gain. Simon's narrative suggests that these institutions are capable of far-reaching influence, extending into the personal lives of individuals. Simon's allegations extend beyond his own experiences to include his family. He claims that the Vatican was responsible for shooting his father, an act intended to further isolate and control him. This, he argues, was part of a broader pattern of targeting families to maintain obedience and suppress dissent. Simon's account underscores the personal cost of institutional abuse, highlighting the ways in which families can be caught in the crossfire. Recurring theme in Simon's narrative is the concept of celibacy and surrogacy. He alleges that the Vatican used him and others as surrogates to enforce celibacy among priests. This, he claims, involved physical and psychological abuse designed to remove the ability to engage in sexual activity. Simon's account raises questions about the lengths to which institutions will go to maintain control over their members. Simon's report describes a vast network of influence, stretching from the Vatican to local law enforcement and political institutions. He alleges that this network was responsible for trafficking, embezzlement, and the manipulation of demographics. Simon's account suggests that these networks are capable of shaping entire communities, using a combination of financial incentives and coercion to maintain control. Throughout his report, Simon emphasizes the importance of documentation. He provides exhibits, photographs, and detailed accounts to support his claims. For Simon, these documents are not just evidence, but a means of asserting his truth in the face of powerful opposition. The act of documenting his experiences becomes a form of resistance, a way to reclaim agency and challenge the narrative imposed by others. Central theme in Simon's account is the experience of isolation and alienation. He describes feeling cut off from society, denied the opportunity to form relationships, and forced to live on the margins. This sense of exclusion, he argues, was not accidental, but the result of deliberate policies designed to control and suppress. Simon's story highlights the psychological toll of long-term isolation and the resilience required to endure it. Simon alleges that the Vatican and its allies engaged in the deliberate manipulation of demographics to maintain power. He claims that the trafficking of undocumented persons and the strategic placement of populations were part of a broader plan to ensure loyalty and control. This, he argues, was achieved through a combination of financial incentives, political alliances, and social engineering. Financial control is a recurring motif in Simon's report. He alleges that embezzlement of taxpayer funds was used to support the Church's agenda, with money diverted to key communities and institutions. Simon claims that these financial schemes were central to maintaining the Church's influence and ensuring the loyalty of its supporters. The alleged embezzlement, he argues, is evidence of the lengths to which institutions will go to secure their interests. Simon's narrative implicates law enforcement in the broader conspiracy. He alleges that officials like Sheriff Joe Arpaio were complicit in trafficking and demographic manipulation. According to Simon, law enforcement was not just a tool of the state, but an active participant in the Church's network of control. This, he argues, highlights the dangers of unchecked institutional power. Psychological impact of Simon's experiences is a recurring theme. He describes the toll of living under constant surveillance, enduring abuse, and being denied basic rights. Simon's account highlights the resilience required to survive in the face of overwhelming adversity. His story serves as a reminder of the human cost of institutional abuse and the importance of recognizing and addressing psychological harm. Simon's report is ultimately a call for accountability. He urges recognition of the abuses he alleges and demands that those responsible be held to account. Simon's narrative is not just a personal story, but a broader indictment of institutional power and the dangers of unchecked authority. His call for justice resonates beyond his own experiences, inviting reflection on the need for transparency and reform. Simon's willingness to share his story, despite the risks and challenges, underscores the power of personal testimony. His account serves as a reminder that individual voices can challenge powerful institutions and demand change. Simon's narrative invites us to consider the importance of listening to those who have been marginalized and to recognize the value of personal experience in the pursuit of truth. We conclude this exploration of John Simon's investigative report. We are left with many questions and challenges. Simon's account is complex, controversial, and deeply personal. Whether one accepts his claims or not, his story raises important issues about power, control, and the rights of individuals. It invites us to reflect on the role of institutions in our lives and the importance of vigilance in the face of potential abuse. Simon's journey is a testament to the enduring human spirit and the quest for justice.